I'm Tyler Suiters in the Energy News Center, and the White House 2011 budget proposal is now out for the upcoming fiscal year. And we're taking a deeper dive into what that means for the Department of Energy. Specifically, DOE would see a 9.2% increase in funding through this budget. The White House also calls for tripling the loan guarantee authority for the nuclear energy sector up to $54.5 billion. Plus, the budget calls for $4.7 billion in what it terms clean energy technology investments. Energy Secretary Steven Chu today held a budget briefing for reporters. Clean Sky's Lee Patrick Sullivan was there for that discussion. And Lee, let's start with something that's being cut from the budget, nonetheless a very popular topic right now. That is the issue of the Yucca Mountain Repository.
That's right, Tyler. Yucca, yucca, yucca. 7 out of the first 10 questions at this budget briefing were about Yucca Mountain. The 2011 Department of Energy budget officially withdraws the application from the Department of Energy for Yucca Mountain and sets up a blue ribbon panel to look into the issue of where the department goes from here.
So we go to a blue ribbon commission right now, but isn't that how we started this? Wasn't it a blue ribbon panel that chose Yucca Mountain as a repository to begin with?
That's right, Tyler. Secretary Chu said a lot has been learned since 1982 when Yucca Mountain was first set up about how we use nuclear material and how we get the energy from it. And he says that information will affect what we use with spent nuclear material, and that's what this blue ribbon panel will be looking at. He made a point to say that they will not decide what will replace Yucca Mountain, because there was a question about, will the Yucca Mountain project be moved to Mississippi? And he said that that will not happen. That's not what this blue ribbon panel, they're looking at as a way to move forward about how we use nuclear material. Mm-hmm. And this is very important because the 1982 Nuclear Waste Act passed by Congress says that the Department of Energy has a legal obligation to move forward. And Secretary Chu, actually not Secretary Chu, the Department of Energy's counsel stood up in the press briefing and said this officially means that we are moving forward because it is a legal matter. They have to do something with this nuclear waste.
Well, today is about the budget, though, so let's get back on track a little bit in terms of what is and is not in this budget proposal. One of the cuts is clean coal technology, but it's not in a clean cut necessarily. Secretary Chu elaborated on this to some degree, right?
Yeah, he said the Department of Energy is still in the clean coal business. They are looking at ways to use clean coal technology. But he says there was so much money left over from the stimulus in this past budget that there was enough money to carry on to 2011. So yes, clean coal is not in 2011 budget, but they still will be spending money on it.
One of the catchphrases we heard from the President earlier today, the major turn, or I guess continuation is a better term for this, for clean energy technology investments. Who are the big green winners, the renewable winners here?
Well, the big renewable winners, a $113 million increase for renewable and energy efficiency. Now, when you talk about green technologies, there could be a variety of things that could fall into that. It could be new battery technology. It could be the Ford Motor Company winning a Department of Energy grant for more fuel-efficient cars that are actually internal combustion engines. Mm-hmm. So that's a wide spectrum. But the biggest winner was wind technology. Over solar and geothermal, and that's mostly because that we're finally going to get into offshore wind production here in the United States, something other countries have been doing, but the Department of Energy says it's time for the U.S. to start doing that.
There's so much rides on the Cape Wind decision with Secretary Salazar coming up in a few months.
Exactly. And Tyler, overall, the Department of Energy on paper did much better than the other agencies. As you recall, President Obama called for a freeze for most spending in his State of the Union address, and the Department of Energy's budget actually on paper went up $2 billion. But if you count the stimulus money that it got in the current budget, the Department of Energy, just like all other agencies, lost money in this budget.
So a proposed 9% boost for DOE, but a proposed 3% cut for EPA. So we are seeing a mixed bag regarding the energy and environmental sectors. Clean Skies' Lee Patrick Sullivan talking to the Secretary today about the budget. Thanks so much, Lee. And thank you for staying with us. You're watching Clean Skies News.